Well, hi. Welcome to the Secret Girl Gang podcast. Come on in, regardless of your gender persuasion. This is a hopefully monthly pod all about Eve, Riot Grrrls of Wrestling and its surrounding community. I am your friendly, feral host responsible for steering this podcast. You can call me Bex or Phoenix if you know me via certain internet spaces. And I'm probably best known nowadays for being front row at most Eve shows and being loud as all hell. I am feral. I'm really excited to be here today to talk all about the latest Eve show, Eve 141 Elite Encounters. Look, did I intend to get this up earlier? Yes, definitely. But alas, Eve 141 was also the show that fell on the same weekend as my birthday, so I ended up occupied for a hot second with all of that. We'll see if I can get a tighter turnaround for future episodes. Also, you might notice a fancier, slightly slicker looking layout for this one, so thank you to my friend George over at Cromulent Wrestling for all the tips. It's a work in progress, we're going to figure it out as I go, and I'm sure it'll get better and better as I learn. Oh, but guys, this was an absolute barn burner of a show from start to finish. I cannot stress enough. The atmosphere in the Big Penny Social on November 7th was one of the most incredible things I have ever been lucky enough to be present for. And actually, before we get into the matches and the wrestling, I would really like to talk a little bit about that. The atmosphere and the community at Eve shows is such a huge part of why it feels so incredibly welcoming, even if this is your first ever show. The Big Penny Social as a venue is great for this. Since there's space for folks to sit and have a meal or drinks before the show, the venue encourages a really social crowd. There's a lot of space for people to sort of mingle and chat beforehand. I've been going to Eve shows for a little while now, and you get pretty used to spotting the regulars. A fact of most indie promotions, obviously. You're always going to have the regular crowd. But Eve regulars are generally very lovely and always really eager to chat to anyone who's around. Spotting folks in merch, or even the people who sort of hanging around, glancing eagerly at the doors, trying to get a glimpse of the ring as it's going up, is such a treat because it really invites conversation. Certainly the show before Forbidden Door, Eve versus the World, it was very fun in that respect because there was a lot of people there for the first time, which happened this show as well. And because there's a lot of folk there for the first time, you got very used to seeing people in, usually AEW merch, hanging around Black Horse Road station, looking slightly confused about where they're going. And look, I walk fast, I have places to go, I have people to see. But it was always a treat to see someone looking a little confused in some wrestling merch and being like, we're heading straight down this way, you're looking for an industrial estate, it's going to be a great show. It's a really good way to make friends, or even just to sort of make a connection with someone, even if it's just for that night. But this show was really no different in that respect. Even though it was so very, very busy, people still wanted to chat and to socialise. I know I spent my time before the show catching up with friends I see pretty much exclusively at shows. I got to exchange handmade friendship bracelets for our favourite wrestlers with lots of people, including one friend in particular, Romeo, who I'll give a shout out here to, who had what I can only describe as the biggest wreath of bracelets I have ever seen. Like, genuinely the weight of a small child. It was very impressive. And also seeing people who have incredible tattoos to commemorate the show, people who had brought their family along, people who had brought friends along who were there for their first ever wrestling show, their first ever Eve show, all of the above. It's really special. Both, to meet people who love this promotion and to meet people who are brand new to it. But you know what? This show was also pretty different in that for all the regulars were there were so many first timers. Most of them drawn by the wonderful talent from AEW in this card, but hopefully they were all encouraged to stay by the incredible standard roster we have at Eve. There's a crowd of over 600 people in the Big Penny Social, which is a brand new record for Eve in this venue. great news for them. Like, that's a big sellout and a really big deal. So we had a very, very busy show on our hands. And hopefully one that showed everyone gathered what this group of girls can do. So I've had a little chat about our community and about the sort of energy at the show, which I think is a big part of why everyone loves it so much. But let's get into the actual wrestling, shall we? So we opened with our incomparable compere, Luce Willis, as sparkling as ever, telling us all about the standard rules for an Eve show. It's not that hard to remember them, but let's cover them really quickly here too. Wrestling is, at its core, an agreement between the performers and the audience. If you give them all the energy you have, they'll give you a show. If you see something incredible, cheer for it. If you see a heel doing something underhanded or mean, boo. Honestly, it's just like a pantomime, baby. You gotta lean in. You gotta lean into the energy. If you need anything during the show, there are plenty of staff kicking around that you can go and check in with, who, in my experience, have always been so very helpful at an Eve show and are not afraid to enforce the last and most important rule. Don't be a dick. Don't be disrespectful to performers, don't be disrespectful to your fellow audience members, and certainly don't be fucking creepy. It's not a lot of rules, but they're all pretty damn important. From there, we get to go head first into the show, and it starts with a bang. First up, we have one of our She Won qualifier matches. The She Won is a tournament that is happening in January to crown the new Ace of Eve. Our current Ace of Eve for 2025 is Nina Samuels. For better or for worse, an incredibly talented performer, but, do we like her? Who's to say? But in this qualifying match, we have Alexis Falcon versus Melissa Fierce. Now, Alexis is a staple of Eve and of the UK indie scene, whereas Melissa, who is a little newer to Eve, is fresh and hungry for a win. This was a great match, very hard hitting, both girls getting a really good showing here. Alexis ultimately picks up the win and advances to the She Won quarterfinals, and a result that wasn't entirely surprising to me, at least. Melissa, however, should not be ashamed of her performance here. She's gone toe-to-toe with two of the fiercest on the Eve roster, with a match against Rio already under her belt, and the crowd was firmly behind her at pretty much every turn. In particular, there's one spot where she hits the most beautiful Northern Lights suplex I've seen in a hot second, and really has Alexis in the back foot. It's a lovely little piece of wrestling. Ultimately, though, it is our Eve regular that advances to the quarterfinals of the She Won, joining Session Moth Martina there after Martina's win against Sue Young. Dan, after the match, informs Alexis that she has a chance to pick up an extra win ahead of the quarterfinals in January. To pick up that win, well, Alexis and Martina get to pick their dream tag team partner and fight in December for momentum going into the She Won. Alexis refuses to reveal her pick for her dream partner yet, although the promise is heavy in the air. Whether you think that she's just stringing us along or whether she's not decided yet remains to be seen. But it's things like this that I really appreciate about Eve. People in wrestling spaces talk a lot about kayfabe and about the way we tell stories. In modern times, it is a lot harder to maintain full kayfabe like before. Social media is rampant, there are dirt sheets everywhere trying to tell us the truth of things, and frankly, we all kind of know the truth of it. The athleticism is real, the results are scripted. It's neither true nor fake. But in creating Eve as a place that allows for both of them to exist at once, they can build show cards that can still be justified in universe. On one hand, the December show needs a big match to build to the She Won. On the other hand, Alexis and Martina are eager to maintain win momentum because this is a sport. Both can exist at one time and it works. I think that's pretty cool. Now, following this, we also have our second She Won qualifier of the night, which is Sapphire Reed versus Danny Moe. Danny here is making her Eve debut and really impresses throughout. She's half dynamite, half dinosaur, and all explosion to watch. Of course, going up against Sapphire Reed requires a lot from anyone, so it's pretty good that Dani has it in reserve. Sapphire is determined to prove that she has a place in the She-1 this year. She's a previous winner, having picked up the Ace of Eve title in 2023, but she's hungry to prove that she's even better than before. That hunger is a huge point in this match. Both women are vying viciously for a win. In particular, there's a spot where Sapphire attempts to suplex Dani into the chairs on the outside of the ring, only to get caught in a reversal and thrown through them herself. As a point of note here, hey, if you're seated at a show and you see wrestlers come towards you, it's a really good idea to move, lest you get taken out by flying limbs. That suplex destroys one of the audience chairs too, so you can only imagine what it does to Sapphire's back. But again, the She-1 is a tournament to crown the next Ace of Eve, so it probably comes as no surprise to know that, eventually, Sapphire manages to pull the victory out. Dani Moe, however, looks great throughout this match, and judging from crowd response, would definitely be welcome back in Eve whenever she has the time. With both of our She-1 qualifiers for the night wrapped, we get to one of the more unique aspects of Eve. While Eve is home to some of the best wrestling in the world, they also feature some of the best burlesque performers in the world. It's an integral part of the Eve DNA by now, even if it does seem like a surprise to newcomers. The burlesque performers are always incredible. It's a wonderful palate cleanser from all the violence, and a really great way to sell even the most wrestling agnostic person you know on the show. The first of the performers tonight is Ayala Storm, who is an incredible talent who's performed all over the world and won burlesque awards across the UK and even as far afield as Italy. She gives us a roaring performance to Welcome to the Jungle to excellent response. It is definitely worth checking her work out and even seeing if you can catch her live. The atmosphere is something else. But this show, as you'll see throughout this recap, has absolutely no intention of letting its foot off the gas at any point. The card is stacked and the big penny has a closing time, so no time to dwell. Let's keep it moving. The next match up is a triple threat for the Eve International title. Except, well, is it? Listen, if there is one thing you have to know about Eve, beyond the official rules and all of that, it's this. Dan Reed fucking hates a triple threat match. Still, that's what it's billed as, so we'll take him at his word for now. First up to the ring, we have Yu in her final international match ahead of her retirement. The Eve crowd, despite all the US talent on the card, really makes this a special one for Yu, who considers Eve to be one of her more special home promotions. There's coloured streamers thrown into the ring, all matched to her gear, and a raucous chant of her name as everyone rallies behind her. It's special from the get-go, really. This atmosphere was delightful to witness. But of course, there's two other competitors to get to. Next up is Anita Vaughn, the previous Eve International Champion, looking to reclaim the title that she says is rightfully hers, and even more eager to get her revenge on Chris Statlander, the woman who dethroned her. Statlander is last up, carrying the Eve International title and wearing the newly earned AEW Women's World title around her waist. She's a fearsome competitor, what can we say? Now, remember what I said about Dan hating a triple threat match? Before the bell can ring, a familiar piece of music hits, and we get the Eve return of Alex Windsor, a woman who hasn't been seen in the Eve ring since she announced that she was all elite. Look, the reaction to Windsor's homecoming here is rowdy. She's been killing it in AEW, but it's hard to deny how nice it is to see her back home. The match itself is chaos in all the best ways. The crowd is split, with everyone getting their fair share of chants, noise and appreciation throughout. Ultimately though, we get a reignition of the rivalry between Alex Windsor and Anita Vaughn as they both fight to the back, allowing for Yu and Chris Statlander to battle it out, with Statlander eventually retaining this title. Statlander retaining might seem like a disappointing choice for those who wanted Yu to get one final win here in her retirement match, but no one can accuse the Eve crowds of not making this match damn special for Yu anyway. We get a lovely moment with her in the middle of the ring, all the wrestlers coming out from the back to applaud, and the crowds moving in close to make an absolute racket, battering their hands off the ring. Anecdotally, I absolutely sprained my finger doing that, so exercise caution, don't do what I do, but it makes for a very good story. Certainly though, Yu is incredibly loved here, and we wish her all the best for her retirement and for everything still to come. Look, after that we get a lovely interval, a nice break, a chance to reset. And then we have the following 8-woman tag, which is a match I can only describe as a shenanigans match. When you have the so-called tag team champions, Pretty Psycho, trying to team with maybe the greatest heel of our age, Nina Samuels, and I guess Abby Cartwright is there too, then you're almost guaranteed dysfunctional team dynamics. They face off against the real tag team champions, Lally, along with Sky Smitson and Violet Knight. Here's the thing. It's shenanigans all the way down. Nina Samuels looks like she'd rather be dead than in this team. Abby's just happy to be here. Lana isn't convinced about this tag team business still. It's chaos all the way. Genuinely though, the most surprising part of this match is the end. Abby Cartwright only goes and gets a pin. It's an early Christmas miracle, I swear. The crowd erupts for her. She might be Nina's little minion, but damn, it feels pretty monumental to see her get a win. Nina even cracks a smile about it, so you know it's huge. For us all to recover from such a shock result, we get another burlesque performance here, this time from the red-headed femme icon Bonnie Knockers. Bonnie has been an Eve mainstay, and actually this duo of Aya and Bonnie were the burlesque performers I saw at my very first Eve show, which was a lovely little full circle moment for me when I realised. In a beautiful contrast to our earlier performance, Bonnie excels in informative comedy burlesque, with this one all about how to check your chest for signs of breast cancer. Important information to have, all delivered with a lot of laughs. You can't complain. From this though, we come into arguably the biggest match on the card, and the draw for so many new faces here. Willow Nightingale makes her Eve debut, facing off against Lucy Sky. The crowd was so very, very, very excited for this one, and it showed from the get-go. From the second Willow makes her entrance, the entire audience is unglued with excitement. I'm not sure if you've ever heard a crowd of 600 plus people try to sing along to entrance music that does not have lyrics, but trust me, the Eve faithful managed it with Willow's theme. Willow is one of the best baby faces in the entire world, bar none, and I mean that so sincerely. Genuinely one of the loveliest women in the world, and someone who finds it so easy to connect with the crowd. It is no surprise that the babe with the power is so deeply loved at Eve, even on her debut match. The match is set for a 20-minute time limit, and I mention this because it's relevant, shockingly. The bell goes, and 2 full minutes of that time limit elapses without any wrestling even occurring, because the crowd just simply will not stop cheering and chanting for Willow. I think we managed to cover 4 or 5 different songs, just fitting her name in where we could, because everyone was simply so excited to see her. It's really hard to argue with that type of response. And of course, the crowd is firmly behind Willow throughout. It's very hard not to be, unfortunately. However, we get 18 minutes of these women going toe to toe, and Lucy Sky holds her own very admirably. Both women are evenly matched in terms of strength and size, which is a bit of a novelty for both, and it's really fascinating to see the way both of them adapt to each other as opponents. When they hit their stride together, It's something pretty special, with both of them getting some really excellent offence in. In the end, Willow manages to hit that pounce she's so very good at, and then that lethal powerbomb to secure a win in her debut. In the moments after, she yells out that she loves Eve and the crowds here, and the resounding response tells me that the feeling is absolutely mutual. Certainly for me, and for everyone I know, we would be more than thrilled to have Willow back in an Eve ring whenever her busy schedule allows. I do, however, want to take the moment to shout out Lucy Sky. In Eve, she's really come into her own, both as a wrestler and as a performer. Going 18 minutes against Willow is no small feat, and Lucy stepped up to the plate in a way that I think is really admirable. One of the really special things about independent promotions and about Eve is getting to see all of your regular roster members thrive and develop throughout their time. And Lucy getting to have this big marquee match against such a big name is very well earned, and she's going from strength to strength, so everyone should keep an eye out for her, because I get the sense she's going to go on to do incredible things. But I hope you're not too blown out, because we still have a whole main event to go. The double-edged sword of such a wonderful card is it can be very, very hard for an audience to maintain this high level of energy for the entire show. Eve crowds always do their best and are rewarded for their efforts with some excellent wrestling. It's really hard to complain that you're getting too much good wrestling, but hey, when every match feels like it could be a main event, sometimes that's a lot to handle. However, the actual main event of Elite Encounters is for the Eve Championship title. The reigning champion, Nyla Rose, defends against the alpha of the pack, Rio. Now, if you remember from the story so far that I gave last month, Rio turned heel at the end of Eve 138, Eve versus the World. She was furious at the idea that import talent from AEW can simply waltz right into Eve and get guaranteed title shots, or in fact guaranteed titles, while Eve homegrown talent has to work and win and have decent rankings to even get a chance. Here's the thing. Before we even begin to recap this match, I have to remind you all of the spirit of Eve, the rules in which matches are conducted in Eve. Under the Spirit of Eve rules, wrestlers are given quite a lot of leeway provided that everyone involved is consenting to it. This means that low blows and weapons are not grounds for disqualification, and there are no count-outs when you're outside the ring. Disqualification can still occur due to outside interference at the hands of non-match permitted individuals, physical abuse of an Eve official, and disobeying direct referee instruction when it's given. Can you tell this one gets out of hand if I have to give you this warning? It opens explosively. Neither woman seems content to hold back here. It spills out of the ring within the first 30 seconds, and we are truly off to the races. Rio has a point to prove, and Nyla has a belt to defend. The steel chairs Rio has been using as a weapon in recent matches come into play early here, with 19 minutes left on the clock. But Nyla has clearly been studying the tapes and counters before Rio can take her head off with one. Not content with that, or in fact with the referee's decision to confiscate said chairs, Rio shoves Nyla into her lovely referee Oscar and manages to get some time unsupervised to really lay in the damage. In the back half of this match, it's all about plunder. Both women push to the brink, they resort to weapons. Steel chairs, kendo sticks, the audience's chair, the ring itself, even a table. Rio is the one who gets put through the table in the end, but it seems to do nothing but awaken a fury in her. With a final pile driver onto the chairs, Rio gets the win and the title. It's never that simple though. You get a title and people immediately want a piece of you. Immediately after Rio's win, Alexis Falcon shows up. She has some very, very complimentary words for her. for her work ethic, for her talent, for how dangerous she is. Alexis wants Rio as her dream partner in December. That's an empire, she says. One that she's sure will bring down Martina and her chosen partner. They're interrupted by Millie Mackenzie. Now, of course, Millie can't currently wrestle, even though she really, really wants to beat the shit out of Alexis and Rio. She can, however, coach Martina and speak on her behalf. She's a former She-Won winner. She knows exactly what it takes. Much like Martina's chosen partner. Folks, Jamie fucking Hayter makes her Eve return. So, if you want to come along, it's sure to be a vicious one. Come find out for yourself. Eve 142, Let's Slam Santa, takes place on December 5th at the Big Penny Social. Eve 142 also features the return of Emi Sakura and Venny, along with a whole stack of incredible matches. So, come find out for yourself, and just remember, don't be a dick. Thank you for joining me on this little recap of Eve 141 Elite Encounters, and hopefully I'll see you all again after Let's Slam Santa. Bye.